Hello, welcome to Tim Conley Drums. I want to talk about my video from a few weeks back where I was talking about how there is no money for musicians in the GTA scene, or I said actually Ontario. But if we look at the entire scene across Ontario and specifically the GTA, because that's where the majority of the bands work, which is the Greater Toronto area. Uh, what I was talking about there, because there was some confusion, so I need to clear things up on that video. What I was talking about in that video was more for bands that are playing in bars or in the original scene. There is no money in the original scene at all. And there never has been, there never will be. And you are sucking it up when you're in the original scene. Now, in the past, I was in original bands, and for example, let's say we played a venue like Lee's Palace. What would often happen is there'd be 3 to 4 bands on the docket for the night, and you charged, say, the venue charged, not you, the venue charged $10 to get in. Well, it's 50-50. So the band gets $1.25 per customer at $10. The venue takes 5. Each one of the bands split the remaining 5. So if you got 4 bands, you're getting $1.25 per person that comes in the door. And then your band, say your band's a 4-piece band, so you've got to really get a lot of people to come to that show to see you based on that. So when you're in the original scene, you are sucking it up. So I wasn't really talking a lot about the original scene in that last video. I'm going to talk about it more in this video. In the original music scene, also known as the indie scene, it's been accepted that you're going to struggle, that you're going to starve if you try to make a living doing it, and there virtually is no money. It's just the way it is. A lot of indie bands just perform and play, and they're trying to get their music out there, and that they're young and they just want to play. And I get it, because I've been there, done that. I was in a young band years ago and playing Lee's Palace and all the other original venues around the GTA area. Didn't really go too far out of the GTA with the original music, because unless you've got some kind of a following outside of your immediate area, nobody is going to come and see you unless you're playing covers. It's just the way it is. So you have to understand the original thing is more of a love, and you're trying to get your money out. I thought I heard a snare drum vibrating. I got 2 snares here, so let's take those off. So yeah, you're not going to make any money. And a lot of people comment on that video about how you do it for love, you do it for love. Well, you do it for love in the indie scene, absolutely. And you're trying to get people to hear your music. You might sell merch. You might sell, back in those days, CDs. The CD thing is kind of gone away now. You can even sell LPs now. If you put an album out, it's back to vinyl. So you could sell merchandise, stickers, t-shirts, hats, LPs, CDs, and a link to a download. Unbelievable. But that's where you can make some extra money in the original scene. Now, let's go to the bar scene, and you're playing cover music. 1985, I was making $100 a night playing in a thriving Toronto cover scene. Original music and the cover scene was thriving back in those days. People were hungry for live music, and we would pack every place we played, and we got paid $100, which was way better, because I think I actually had some kind of a job at that time. I did. I worked in a hospital in Oakville, and I think I made $3.65 an hour, something like that. So imagine an 8-hour shift working in a hospital didn't pay that much, but I made $100 on a gig, and I was 19 or 20 years old. No, in 1985, I was 20 years old. So amazing, amazing. So those were the days. Fast forward to today. This is what my last video talked a lot about. Bands are still making that same 100, 125, maybe 150, but the cost to get to the gig is so high. The Toronto traffic is insane. It's going to cost you 40 or 50 bucks to park unless the venue provides parking, which it often doesn't. So you're out on the street, or you're in a parking lot, or you're risking your vehicle in an alley, and you're paying a lot of money for that. The amount of time and gas and effort it takes, you're basically walking away from a gig. If you're lucky, if you don't eat and you don't drink anything, you're lucky if you walk away with 25 bucks. So it's a complete, absolute waste of time to be a bar band musician unless you are right in the city. You got quick access to where you're going to play. Not all of us do, because the city's huge. You know, and drummers can't carry gear on the subway unless you've got a really small packed up kit and you've got some kind of a system where you can carry all your gear in one, maybe two bags, and it's not too bad. I don't have that. I mean, I play a small kit whenever I play, but not that small. So it's very, very difficult to make a living. If you're professional, you have to go outside of the bar scene. Okay, so as you can see here, I'm in a drum room / studio room in a music school. I'm teaching. So that's my alternate to gigging. If I'm not gigging, I'm teaching. If I'm not teaching, teaching at my house. If I'm not teaching here at Merriam School of Music, I'm teaching at my house. And if I'm not teaching, then I'm doing other things. I got merchandise that I try to sell. Tim Conley Drums merchandise. So that's another income stream. I do the odd studio gig. That's another income stream. I also judge music competitions. Now, some people say music is not a competition. I actually agree with that. But when you're trying to make money in this business, sometimes you got to do things that might not be the greatest thing. Now, for all you musicians out there, you know what I'm talking about. Do you really want to play Katy Perry? Do you really want to play Justin Bieber or Ed Sheeran or any of those pop artists? Do you really want to play that music? Beyonce, Rihanna, all that crap? Just my opinion. I've played those artists 1,000 times because it's dance music. People want to dance. You got to suck it up. And I'm doing something that I really don't want to do, which is to play that. I'd rather be playing music that I love. But a lot of the music that I love is Dad's music. And people don't want to hear it unless they know what they're getting from a classic rock band. So if you're playing more modern music, specifically pop, R&B, even some rap music, if you're playing that live, nowadays you're going to get a bigger audience. If you're playing classic rock music, you have to cater to your crowd. So if you look at your crowd and they're all young kids, the classic rock thing, the dad music, as some people have commented in my channel, might not cut it. So that's why I'm saying when I judge those competitions, it's not my absolute favorite thing to do because music is not a competition. Music is art. But in some cases, there's a competitive edge to it, and I get paid to be a judge, just like, America's Got Talent or any of those singing competitions. I sometimes do the drumming version of that. Not often, but it is another income stream. So to make a living as a musician, you've got to hustle. You've got to find many, many different ways. YouTube, for example, make money from YouTube. That's another stream of income for me that adds up to my total for the month so that I can pay all my bills, pay my mortgage, and get by. Now, I work as a professional musician. That's my only job. I don't do anything else. I gig, I teach, I record, I do all the things that I mentioned. So some of you are like, oh, you need to go get a job. Well, it's too late for me. I've been doing this for 40 years. I own my own house. I own my own vehicles. I have several vehicles, and my house isn't paid off. I have a mortgage, but I still own it. And I qualified for a mortgage on a musician's salary. So I think I'm doing okay. So you can make a living as a musician, but you've got to hustle. You've got to be successful. And in the early days, I took every gig and everything that I could get my hands on. Having been doing this for so long and more established in the scene, I can pick and choose now. So I don't do bar gigs anymore. Hence my video, I quit the scene in Toronto. I don't do any of those Toronto crazy bars. I can't deal with it anymore. I can't deal with the drunks. I can't deal with the stupid owners and the terrible traffic. And just the Toronto scene is a nightmare, in my opinion, coming from Hamilton to Toronto, the long drive, late nights. I can't stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning and drive home and get into bed at 5 a.m. anymore like I used to. I just can't do any of that. So what do? I do theater gigs, do wedding gigs, and I do ticketed venue gigs, subbing in different bands. Or if I do a theater gig, that's maybe a small tour. Sometimes theater bands tour around. So tribute bands, when I'm talking about theater gigs, it's a tribute band. So I focus on corporate, tribute, ticketed, and weddings. Those are the gigs that I do now, and I can pick and choose, like I said. And I don't do a lot of gigs anymore. I'm almost 60 years old. I don't do a ton of gigs. I do more of the teaching. I've sort of switched a little bit from gigging more to teaching. I teach 50 students a week, roughly. So I mean, I'm doing well with the teaching, and again, I've established myself in the teaching thing. For those of you young musicians that are starting out, gig, do everything you got to do to break into the gigging scene. Also, if you're smart enough and you understand technique and you can break things down and you're very patient, because a lot of your students are going to be kids, then get into the whole teaching thing. So there is avenues other than just the Toronto crappy bar scene. Now, I'm a little bit biased, but I've been doing that Toronto scene since 1985, so I can comment on that scene quite candidly. There was a time when I liked it and I didn't mind it, but as I've gotten older and my patience is way, way less, I can't deal with all the things that are in Toronto now. That was why I did that video and about Toronto and how I quit that scene, because I just can't deal with that. So anyways, so that I'm clear about that other video that I did, because that video is done really well. I got about 35,000 views on that. That's good for me. I'm still building my drum channel, and I'm trying to come up with new ideas and stuff. I know you guys like the stories, and I got tons, many, many years of gigging and playing in bands and stories. And I mean, I got stories. I'm always thinking about what's going to be my next video. And some of the stories I have are pretty funny and pretty fun to tell for me, actually, as well. So anyways, I just wanted to pop in here quick while I was on a break from my students and just sort of clarify a few things from that video about music in Ontario. So you can make a living. A lot of people commenting, oh, that's why I never went into music. Oh, that's why I quit music. Oh, that's why I got a job. That's fine. You guys that decided music wasn't for you, that's fine. But that never happened to me. There were times when I was down, but once you get established in a scene, people contact you. People call you. Oh, I get recommended to do things. I'll call my friend Tim, whatever. He's a drummer. Call him. He can do it for you. And like I said, back in earlier times, I would take anything and everything if I could fit it in. I'll tell you a quick story. One time I did 3 gigs in a row. So Town of Oakville used to have a music festival, and they would shut down Lakeshore Road all the way from Allen Street to Kerr Street. That whole stretch would be shut down. So that's a few kilometers. So Allen Street had a stage, Navy and Lakeshore had a stage, and Kerr and Lakeshore had a stage. I can remember playing there. I think I did it twice actually, where I did a gig in the afternoon on the Allen Street and Lakeshore stage. Then I did an early evening gig on the Navy and Lakeshore stage. And then I did a finale evening gig on the Kerr Street and Lakeshore stage. So 3 gigs in a span of a few hours. But that's how hungry I was to try to develop myself in this scene. So if you're hungry enough and you really, really want something, you can do it. You've got to have the confidence to be able to do it and not quit. I think a lot of guys quit the music scene. That's what I'm getting from a lot of the comments, that guys just gave up. And in some cases, I understand. In my case, it never happened. I never, ever gave up completely. I would morph into other things. So I can remember Dom Famulero telling me, if you're going to cut back on the gigging, increase your teaching. If you're going to cut back on the teaching, increase your gigging and or studio work. Now, studio work is a whole different bag. That's a lot harder to come by. And I've established myself somewhat in the studio scene, but not nearly as much in the teaching scene and the performance scene. The studio scene is a much more niche thing. Also, with the way they record music now, drums, live drums like this, are just not being recorded. Everybody's using electronic drums, or they're using a keyboard or a drum machine or whatever. They're not using live drums as much, especially in the pop, R&B, rap, even country music. I was devastated when my son played me a song by Luke Bryant, and he had a drum. Not only did he have a drum machine, but it was playing the most dreaded beat of all, the trap beat. And that trap beat is on every hip hop tune, and 30-second notes on the hi-hat. And I'm not going to play it for you guys because I just hate it. So the industry for recording has changed dramatically. It's really hard to get studio gigs. I do the odd one, but it's really hard to get. So I focus more on the teaching and some performing. But the teaching is the focal point for me. Like I said, 50 students a week, pretty busy. So you can make a living. You can. There is hope. I was very upset about Mohawk College closing down their program because it's just not making any money. It's not generating money for the school because young people are just not interested in pursuing music as a career, which is unfortunate, but I do understand. It's changing. It's changing dramatically, and it's going to a lot of electronica. And the other thing I was going to say was, this is for a separate video, but I just wanted to let you guys know, look at the top 40 US charts right now. There's only one band on the charts, one band. Look at the charts in 1985, predominantly bands. Maybe the odd single artist, like Michael Jackson or Elton John, but predominantly bands, rock bands specifically. Now, the only band on the charts right now in early August is Coldplay. They're a great band, and I sub in a Coldplay tribute, and they're an awesome band, and I love Coldplay, but they're not really a rock band. I consider them more poppy, but really good poppy, because I'm not a huge pop music fan, but Coldplay is sort of pop rock, I guess. But that's the only band that is on the charts. It's really sad. So I'm going to leave that and set up for my next video, which is going to be about how rock music is dead, sadly. Like I said, pop music, pop, R&B, hip hop, country, they've all taken over, and rock music has fallen over a cliff. So on that positive note, thank you very much for watching. Thanks very much for tuning in and subscribing. And, I love the comments that I'm getting, and I'm getting a lot of comments asking me questions about what to do about certain things. I am no absolute expert, but I've got 40 years experience in this industry, and I just give you my opinion. Doesn't always mean that you have to take my advice, but if you're going to ask me a question, I will try and answer it. I try to get to all the comments as much as I can. All right? All right. So thank you very much for watching. And as always, keep drumming. See ya.